He wasn't trying to pay. He was like, bitch, you're gonna fuck me and you're gonna fuck me in the ass and my boy for free and you're gonna like it, so.
The painful economic effects of the pandemic ravage the U.S., homelessness is on the rise. And with the winter months getting colder, people are crowding into shelters where they're in close proximity to others.
At 5:12 a.m., a profound darkness still envelopes Chicago, yet the city is already stirring, a silent hum of impending motion. A CTA bus sighs to a halt on a blustery corner near the loop. The driver, anticipating the biting chill, holds the doors open for a few precious extra seconds, as the wind whipping off the vast lake feels sharp enough to cut. Across the street, a small business owner performs a familiar morning ritual, lifting the protective gate. But as they step forward, they abruptly freeze, and it's not the frigid air that causes their pause. The pathway to their entrance is obstructed. Curled tightly near the doorway is a person, swaddled in layers that, from a distance, might suggest warmth. Only upon closer inspection does the stark reality emerge. These layers are a makeshift shield of thin fabric, damp cardboard, and a meager blanket, utterly inadequate against the brutal, unforgiving Chicago winter. Nearby, a desolate tableau reveals the true cost of outdoor survival in a city ill-equipped for it. Scattered bags, an overturned shopping cart, a tide of trash with nowhere proper to be disposed of. This accumulation isn't just unsightly. It's the very kind of disorder that quickly escalates into a pressing public health concern for everyone. And in that moment, the business owner grapples with a question haunting countless Americans today. If I call for help, will this encounter escalate into something punitive or violent? If I don't act, will this scene simply become the accepted new normal? Welcome to U.S. Homeless Secrets. We are dedicated to uncovering hidden stories with clarity and respect. We commit to avoiding gratuitous or graphic imagery, and we vehemently oppose any form of harm, harassment, or vigilantism. Our focus remains steadfastly on the intricate human reality, the challenges of public spaces, and innovative solutions that uphold individual dignity while diligently working to restore safety for all. To safeguard identities, all names and distinguishing details have been altered. Certain moments presented are composites, carefully constructed from recurring patterns documented in credible reporting and local advocacy efforts. Our aim is not to sensationalize suffering, but to illuminate the stark realities of the system at street level. Today, Chicago, 2025, a metropolis celebrated for its world-class architecture and breathtaking billion-dollar developments. Yet simultaneously, a place where tens of thousands of individuals will experience homelessness over the course of a single year. Here, a brutal winter night can swiftly transform an already precarious situation into a desperate, life-or-death countdown. Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness. At the very heart of this discussion lies a fundamental question. If a city possesses the prowess to illuminate a magnificent skyline, but struggles to prevent its own neighbors from freezing on the street, what does that truly reveal about the foundational systems we have collectively built? Part 1. The real scale, why the number, is always bigger than you think. When the average person conjures an image of homelessness, their mind typically gravitates toward the most visible manifestations: an individual resting on a train, seeking shelter beneath an overpass, or huddled in a doorway. Yet, the true scope of this crisis far surpasses what meets the eye. In Chicago, homelessness isn't solely confined to being outside. It is profoundly about instability. It encompasses the family doubling up in a single bedroom, clinging on until the threat of eviction looms. It's the dedicated worker sleeping in their car, because a solitary missed paycheck snowballed into an eviction notice. It's the determined student cycling through friends' couches, all while striving to maintain their academic commitments. This complex reality explains why various counts of homelessness can paint seemingly disparate pictures, and yet, each can hold a valid, albeit partial, truth. One standard method cities employ to quantify homelessness is the point-in-time count, an annual, single-night snapshot. In the most recent winter count highlighted in local reports, Chicago documented nearly 19,000 individuals experiencing homelessness in January. This figure represented more than triple the number from the previous year in that same report, vividly illustrating how the shelter system buckled under the escalating pressure of new arrivals and severely constrained capacity. Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness. However, even this significant number fails to fully capture the widespread phenomenon of hidden homelessness. These are individuals who actively avoid shelters, evade official counts, and deliberately remain unseen, because visibility can carry an immense cost, jeopardizing their job, their personal safety, or the last fragile thread of their dignity. And then there's an entirely different metric, the annual flow number. This figure represents the estimated total of people who experience homelessness at any juncture throughout an entire year. In Chicago, a widely cited estimate places this annual figure staggering into the tens of thousands, approximately 76,000 individuals in 2022, according to local advocacy groups and reporting summarized by Axios. Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness. So if you find yourself asking, how can the visible reality seem so much smaller than the reported numbers? Here's the crucial explanation. Because homelessness is inherently fluid. People frequently transition in and out of shelters. Individuals might couch surf with friends for a couple of weeks, then resort to sleeping in their car for 3, perhaps find a brief respite in a motel, only to lose it all again. And critically, winter doesn't create homelessness. Rather, winter starkly exposes it. The cold itself doesn't initiate the crisis. The cold merely forces it into undeniable visibility, pushing individuals into warming centers, train stations, emergency rooms, and all the public spaces we collectively share. Part 2. Winter turns instability into emergency. Chicago is not merely a city where winter serves as a picturesque background detail. Winter here is an unforgiving pressure test. Spending a summer night on a park bench is undeniably perilous. A winter night, however, can swiftly become catastrophic. When temperatures plunge and the relentless wind gains velocity, the margins for survival shrink with terrifying speed. What might have previously involved knocking on doors, trying to find a couch, rapidly transforms into an immediate, urgent demand. You need warmth now. This stark reality is precisely why the city and its partners mobilize to open warming spaces and urgently implore people to call for assistance. Chicago's official severe weather guidance explicitly directs residents toward city resources and the 311 hotline for help, underscoring that in conditions of extreme cold, even a slight delay can prove deadly. But here lies a painful, often unspoken truth that rarely finds its way into neat, reassuring slogans. A warming center is not a home. It does not offer a door that locks securely. It does not provide a stable, recognized address. It is not a place where one's meager belongings are genuinely safe. It serves as a critical lifeline, yet it is frequently temporary, often crowded, and inherently limited by strict hours, inconvenient distance, or the raw reality of an individual's mental and physical health. And when these critical capacities become strained to their limits, the street inevitably becomes the tragic overflow. This overflow isn't a problem that solely affects the person enduring the elements outside. It reverberates, impacting the entire community block. A business owner is not equipped or trained to function as a crisis responder. A bus driver lacks the expertise to serve as a mental health clinician. A librarian should never be compelled into the role of a security guard. And fundamentally, law enforcement should not be forced into the position of serving as the de facto mental health system for an entire city. Yet, when a city falls drastically short on genuine, robust stabilization options, every single person gets inevitably pulled into that yawning gap. Part 3. How Chicago's homelessness is built, one small shock at a time. Most individuals do not plummet into homelessness because they simply stop trying. Instead, they often fall because the fundamental systems designed to support them are constructed like a treacherous staircase with crucial missing steps. A sudden, unavoidable rent increase, an unexpected layoff, a reduction in critical work shifts, a devastating medical bill, a car breakdown that spirals into the loss of a job, a painful breakup that divides one household into two, without miraculously splitting the rent in half. In a city where housing costs frequently outpace stagnant wages, the financial calculations quickly become brutal. And once that delicate financial balance shatters, the timeline to homelessness can be shockingly brief. Falling 1 month behind on rent quickly escalates into a formal notice. 2 months in arrears means a summons to court. Just a few weeks after that, the locks are changed and access is denied. And at that point, everything that once anchored a person, consistent sleep, essential privacy, crucial paperwork, vital medication routines, job viability, begins to catastrophically wobble. This, then, is precisely how a housing crisis metastasizes into a street crisis. Because when a critical mass of people simultaneously lose their stability, the streets inevitably become the stark stage where the crushing consequences relentlessly pile up. Chicago, in particular, has witnessed this pressure intensify dramatically in recent years, as its shelters have struggled under immense capacity strain. The city has diligently attempted to expand beds and temporary options, yet it continuously grapples with a demand that stubbornly outpaces the available supply. Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness. Part 4. Public space under strain. Why the conflict feels so personal. Now, it is essential that we acknowledge two distinct truths simultaneously. Truth 1. The vast majority of people experiencing homelessness are not violent. In fact, they are statistically far more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. Truth 2. However, unmanaged street homelessness can undeniably generate significant public space problems, primarily because public spaces were never designed nor equipped to function as housing. When outdoor survival transitions from a temporary measure to a semi-permanent existence, the surrounding environment inevitably descends into instability. No reliable access to bathrooms, no running water for hygiene, no trash service specifically engineered for a place that, officially, isn't supposed to exist. No secure storage for personal items, no consistent, restorative sleep, no stable treatment for ongoing health issues, no private space whatsoever to decompress or find respite. And when you systematically strip away stability, what emerges is not a state of calm. What you get instead is survival mode. Survival mode fundamentally alters behavior. People meticulously guard their bags because losing a backpack could mean losing their identification, their essential medication, or their last remaining crucial documents. Minor disagreements escalate into significant conflicts because everyone involved is profoundly exhausted and under immense stress. A crowded sidewalk can transform into a daily confrontation, not because anyone actively desires conflict, but because the city has inadvertently eliminated any viable space for basic human needs to be met safely and with dignity. This is precisely how a neighborhood can come to feel under siege, while the people enduring life on the outside feel perpetually hunted. Remarkably, both of these intense feelings can be entirely real and valid. And if displacement remains the city's primary solitary tool, the destructive cycle simply repeats. Move people, scatter them across new areas, inadvertently create new clusters of need, trigger more public complaints. Repeat. The visible block might appear superficially cleaner, but the underlying crisis has merely been pushed 2 stops further down the transit line. That is not genuine resolution. That is merely relocation. And the profound cost is paid in fear, in mounting resentment, and in enduring trauma, felt on every side of the street. Part 5. We spent money. Why is it still here? When the public hears staggering figures about large-scale spending, the common reactions are often anger, confusion, or a profound sense of betrayal. The question echoes, how can a major metropolitan city spend so much money and still have people freezing outside? The answer is critical. Spending is not synonymous with achieving positive outcomes. A city can allocate substantial funds to emergency response mechanisms and still demonstrably fail in achieving long-term stabilization for its most vulnerable residents. Here is a clear breakdown of where significant money often goes when homelessness persists unsheltered. It funds emergency medical care instead of proactive preventive care. It covers ambulance calls instead of more cost-effective clinic visits. It deploys police responses instead of appropriate clinician responses. It pays for cleanup and security services instead of permanent housing placements. It provides short-term beds instead of investing in long-term stability. And when a city expands its bed capacity but demand continues to surge, driven by escalating rents, lagging wages, and compounding personal crises, it becomes possible to pour immense resources into merely holding the line and still tragically lose ground. This complex dynamic explains why Chicago's strategies frequently involve both adding immediate temporary capacity and simultaneously striving to fund more enduring pathways. It also sheds light on why reporting has underscored plans to increase beds, including hundreds of private room options linked to significant funding packages. Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness. But here's the unvarnished truth we cannot afford to evade. A warm bed for tonight is fundamentally not the same as a viable path for next month. If an individual leaves a warm place at 7 a.m., only to return to the very same street corner by 7 p.m., the system has not achieved stabilization for them. It has merely paused their fall. And if the city finds itself consistently overwhelmed, those temporary pauses regrettably become the entirety of the program, while the frustrated public observes as the same desperate corners repeatedly resurface in the same enduring crisis. Part 6. What works in a city like Chicago? A chain, not a single fix. Chicago does not require a singular, miraculous program to solve its homelessness crisis. What Chicago fundamentally needs is an interconnected chain of thoughtful solutions that directly addresses its own complex chain of problems. Here's a blueprint of what that looks like: practical, balanced, and deeply rooted in preserving human dignity. Warmth first, then stability. During the harsh winter months, the absolute first step is keeping people alive. Warming centers, proactive outreach teams, and readily available safe indoor spaces are critical. Chicago's official guidance unequivocally emphasizes utilizing city resources and contacting 311 for urgent assistance during severe weather. However, the immediate next step must be genuine stabilization, because you simply cannot motivate someone out of the debilitating grip of hypothermia. Crisis response that doesn't default to police. When the core issue at hand is related to behavioral health, a specialized behavioral health response should lead the intervention whenever humanly possible. This means deploying trained clinicians, mobile crisis teams, and outreach workers who are directly paired with medical staff. This approach is not because police officers are inherently bad, but because law enforcement is simply not the appropriate tool for navigating a medical or mental health crisis. Shelter that fits real life. Many individuals consciously avoid traditional shelters, and their reasons are far from laziness. They include a pervasive fear of theft, potent trauma triggers, and restrictive regulations that simply do not align with the complex realities of their daily lives. Improved shelter design should incorporate safer layouts, secure individual storage options, trauma-aware and healing-centered spaces, and clear, streamlined connections to permanent housing solutions. Housing with support, not just a key. For individuals contending with serious mental illness, chronic instability, or profound long-term trauma, merely providing a key to housing may not sustain them without comprehensive support systems in place. Robust case management and consistent, ongoing care are what truly transform a dwelling into lasting stability. Managed public space strategies that reduce chaos. If a city is actively contending with visible outdoor living, it is imperative to implement fundamental public health services. including consistent trash removal, accessible public bathrooms, and coordinated sanitation efforts, to ensure the environment doesn't become dangerous for absolutely everyone. This approach is not enabling. It is a vital form of harm reduction that benefits the entire block and broader community. Prevention that stops homelessness before it starts. The most cost-effective and profoundly humane solution lies in intercepting people at the very edge of crisis. This includes offering short-term rental assistance, proactive eviction diversion programs, help with ID replacement, expert benefits navigation, thoughtful discharge planning from institutions, and mediation services. Because for countless individuals, the journey into homelessness begins with a single, unforeseen shock. And if the city can intervene during that crucial first month, it can prevent years spent enduring life on the street. And here lies the overarching principle. None of these vital pieces function effectively in isolation. Warming centers operating without clear housing pathways will inevitably become revolving doors. Enforcement measures implemented without concurrent treatment will merely result in perpetual churn. Treatment initiatives lacking stable housing will often lead to a relapse back into chaos. Housing provided without adequate support can fail those who are most vulnerable. The entire chain must remain unbroken and connected. Otherwise, the system will inevitably collapse once more. Outro, Chicago's winter question, and what you can do this week. If you've remained with us until this point, it means you chose not to look away. And that profoundly matters, because the most expedient way any crisis expands is when we collectively dismiss it as mere background noise. Chicago's homelessness crisis is not simply a narrative about those people. It is, at its core, a profound story about what truly happens when accessible housing becomes an unreachable dream, when essential health care and vital mental health services cannot possibly meet the surging demand, and when public space itself tragically becomes the last remaining refuge for human survival. Yes, we absolutely need sidewalks that feel safe and welcoming. Yes, we absolutely need public transit that instills a sense of security. Yes, we absolutely need parks that can once again be cherished by families. And yes, we unequivocally need people experiencing crisis to be treated with fundamental human dignity, rather than merely being shuffled from one location to another until they inconveniently disappear from public sight. Because here is the undeniable truth. A city can choose to spend year after year reacting to the same persistent problems on the same street corners. Or it can strategically build integrated systems designed to prevent people from ever landing on those corners in the first place. That pivotal choice is not merely a political calculation. It is ultimately a profound moral imperative. So here is what you can genuinely do this week: concrete actions, not just wishful thinking. Actively support credible outreach teams within your community, particularly those engaged in sustained, critical work during the winter months. Champion programs that effectively connect individuals to meaningful treatment and stable, long-term housing pathways, moving beyond mere one-night fixes. Advocate passionately for crisis response models that do not automatically default to relying on law enforcement as the sole mental health system. Actively push for shelter and housing options that genuinely reflect real-life needs, including offering private room choices whenever feasible and establishing clear, actionable pathways out of temporary beds. Chicago Coalition to End Homelessness. And crucially, when you encounter someone living outside, refuse to let yourself become numb to their presence. You are not obligated to place yourself in danger. You are not expected to solve every problem, but you absolutely can refuse to dehumanize. Now, I eagerly want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching this from? What do you believe your city needs most urgently right now? More affordable housing, expanded access to treatment, a more effective crisis response, stronger prevention initiatives, or better management of its public spaces? Please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation human. If you desire more stories told with unwavering dignity and truth, please subscribe to U.S. Homeless Secrets, because silence is the fertile ground where crises are allowed to quietly grow. but focused attention, genuine compassion, and collective action. These are the powerful forces that truly transform communities. This has been U.S. Homeless Secrets. Thank you for watching. And always remember, tonight, somewhere within the vast expanse of Chicago, the relentless wind continues to move, and the next untold story is already unfolding.